Okay, you guys have a formula sheet, so I'm not going to go through all the formulas. Just remember, there's a couple of ways to find real GDP. One is using the GDP. Sometimes they give you the GDP deflator and the nominal, and you have to solve for X for real. The other way would be current output times base year price. All right, and then the M times V equals P times Y. Just remember, M is money supply, V is velocity, P is price level, Y is output, and P times Y is nominal GDP. Okay. Unemployment, yeah. I would say these four formulas in the consumer price index definitely could be on nominal. Okay. You need all the formulas, the FRQs. I was trying to make it easier. All right. Why study economics? Really just the two reasons on the bottom. It measures the health of the whole economy. And two, it guides government policies to fix problems. Before, like when we had the Depression, we really didn't have good strategies to fix problems. Now with macroeconomics, we do. All right, 3 economic goals, and we studied each one of them: promote economic growth, prevent unemployment, stable prices. All right, and we'll go through all 3 of those tonight. Okay, the most important measure of growth is GDP. GDP is the dollar value of all final goods and services produced within a country's border in 1 year. All right, so it's final goods and services produced within a country's border in 1 year. The big thing is final goods and services, no intermediate goods, and produced within a country's border. Okay, so it's measured in dollars, does not include the value of intermediate goods. So the sauce on a pizza is an intermediate good. The easiest way to think of final goods is the goods that the end user, the consumer, gets. Okay, and then 1 year is usually the thing. Now, anytime you see inflation rate or compare GDP from 2009 to 2008, you need year 2 minus year 1 over year 1 times 100. I think this formula will come in. So here it's percentage change in GDP. But it's the same formula when they ask you inflation rate. So just keep that in mind. Whenever comparing 1 year to another, we use this formula. Okay. What is economic growth? An increase in real GDP over time. Why real GDP? Because real GDP is not affected by inflation. So we know if real GDP is going up, then we have to be producing more, and that's economic growth. And the best thing is real GDP per capita. And anything per capita is like GDP divided by population. If you remember, we did an practice FRQ where we had to figure out the real GDP using the GDP deflator equals nominal over real being X. We found real, and we had to divide that by the population to get the real GDP per capita. Okay. All right. What is not included in GDP? Intermediate goods. So, like the tires on a car, radio on the car. Why? Because all those are put into the price of the total car. Like I said earlier, the sauce and cheese on a pizza. Why? That's all included in the price of the pizza. Non-production. All right. Now, I saw in a couple of quizzes people getting this wrong. Stocks and bonds, they are not part of investment. All right. They are not part of GDP. Used goods, no, they only count the first time you sold. And then illegal activities, illegal drugs, unpaid work. Now, I'm going to add a couple of others here. What do I mean by household goods? If you're working in your own house, you're cutting your own lawn. No, transfer payments, not part of GDP. All right. What are transfer payments? Subsidies, unemployment insurance, welfare, things the government gives people and gets nothing back in return. And then anything made outside the country. Again, what's not included? Intermediate goods, non-production transaction, no stocks and bonds, all right? Illegal activities, household goods, transfer payments outside given to the country. All right, so we mainly use the expenditure approach. Just remember, expenditures equal income. So if GDP goes up, expenditures and income both go up. If GDP goes down, expenditures and income both go down. All right, there's four components to the expenditure: consumer spending, investment. Now remember, investment takes in new houses, inventory, and capital goods when business put money into their own business. Government spending, no transfer payments. Net exports, remember, exports minus imports. All right. Now, a couple of people on one of the quizzes, they listed wages not part of the expenditure. Wages would be in the income approach, but when we're adding up the GDP, we're just adding up the expenditure approach. So wages, no. Interest, no. Rent, no. Depreciation, no. Just consumer spending, investment, which again is inventory and new houses and capital goods, government spending, and net exports. All right, there's definitely a question or two on the test on that. Okay. We don't need that. Here's we go. Nominal is GDP measured in current prices. What does that mean, like in our terms? Current price times current quantity. Current price times current quantity. So if nominal GDP increases, we don't know, is quantity increasing or prices increasing, or they're both increasing. We don't know. Real GDP is expressed in constant or unchanging dollars. What does that mean in our terms? Current output times base year price. Current output times base year price. Now, if real GDP is going up, output has to go up because everyone's timesing it by the same base year price. All right? And that's why real GDP is the best measure of economic growth, because you have to be producing more for real GDP to increase. And then here was the example, right? Like you did 2004, if you make it the base year. 2005, nominal GDP goes up, but notice we're having the same amount of cars and trucks. We haven't produced more, prices just went up. So what's going to happen to real? Real is going to have to multiply by the base year's price, and real stayed the same. All right. Here's what you really need to know in the business cycle. When we're at full employment, does the full employment line? Yeah. When we're in full employment, we're on that red line. So in the peak, right, we have low unemployment, high inflation. On the red line, that's when we're at efficient, like on the production possibilities curve. So we have no cyclical unemployment here, all right? And we're at full employment on the red line. And here, we're recessionary. So on the production possibilities curve, we'd be inside the curve and would have cyclical unemployment. And then I'd remember a recession is 6 months, again, of real decline in real GDP. And notice I said real GDP because it's a decline in output. Okay. It's like 11 questions on unemployment. So like you really got to and for the FRQ, I could see them like giving you a chart and asking you to figure out the unemployment rate, the labor participation rate. But I know in the multiple choice, there's a lot of multiple choice questions. All right. So really hit this really well. There's the unemployment rate equals unemployed over the labor force. And remember, the labor force is unemployed and employed. Okay. And like all the formulas, it's times 100. Right? There'll definitely be a question or two in the multiple choice making you figure that out. You know the formula, it's easy. It's just to put it in plug. Okay. Now, the labor force, you got to be above 16 years old, able and willing to work, looking for a job once within the 4 weeks. Remember, if you're unemployed and you stop looking for a job, you're a discouraged worker. You're not part of the labor force. Not institutionalized, not in the military, school, full-time, or retired. Okay? So again, above 16, able and willing. If I get fired from my job and I stop looking for work, I'm discouraged. I'm not part of the labor force. And those discouraged workers make unemployment seem lower and labor participation seem lower. There is your labor participation rate equal labor force over adult population times 100. Labor force over adult population times 100. Remember, the labor force is unemployed plus employed. Okay. Now, there'll be like 3 or 4 questions on this. Frictional unemployment, temporarily. All right. It's like between jobs. You have skills that people want, but you're not working. You might have graduated college. You might have quit a job, looking for a better job. You might have got fired from a job. You're looking for a job and you have skills that people want. Short term, okay? It's a short term, temporarily unemployed. Seasonal unemployment is a type frictional, all right? These jobs will come back. If you think seasonal unemployment, I would say think Santa Claus, think outside lifeguard in the summer. All right, those people, their job will come back, but when the season is okay. There's your professional Santa Claus. I like that. Construction workers in Michigan, because in the winter it's too cold to build anything. Second is structural. The one thing about structural is also if there's more workers than jobs, that's structural. So minimum wage has that. It creates more workers than jobs. No, there's no quiz tomorrow. What? Is that we are having a meeting? I don't know what you mean about meeting. There's a test Tuesday on FRQs, and there's a test Wednesday on multiple choice. Okay. Another chat thing. Okay, no problem. All right. So you have more workers than you have jobs. That's one. Workers do not have transferable skills. When I say that jobs will never come back, like they might have moved the factory out of their town. Those jobs aren't coming back. Or technology replaced bam, those jobs are never coming back. All right. So VCR repairmen, carriage makers, not the best. Auto assembly line makers, they'd be there. The third, technological, is part of structural. All right. And that is when technology replaces workers. Okay, when technology replaces workers. Okay. Auto assembly workers are fired as robots take over. Right. The third is cyclical. Okay, this is due to a recession. This is like when the economy is going down and people are getting laid off. Okay, so the economy is going down, people are making less money, people have less jobs, so therefore people are demanding less goods and services. So therefore, like steel workers are laid off, restaurant owners fire waiters or waitresses. Right? That would be cyclical. So you have frictional, short-term, structural, more long-term, more workers than there are jobs, and cyclical due to a recession. You're always going to have frictional and structural. Cyclical, like now, we don't have any cyclical unemployment. So you could have zero cyclical unemployment. Full employment. Full employment really means frictional and structural unemployment, or no cyclical unemployment. Okay, so full employment is frictional unemployment or structural unemployment. All right, and it's also, you could call it the natural rate of unemployment. We're at full employment if we only have natural rate. There is no cyclical unemployment. Okay, they love to ask questions like that. They love to try to, like trip you up. Just remember, full employment, you're going to have some frictional, some structural. United States, usually about 4%, but no cyclical. And that's also the natural rate of unemployment. Now, when you're at this, I'm going to just try to speed back. When you're at full employment, you're like where the blue hits that red line. You're at potential output right there. Okay. I'll go back. All right. Okay. Employment means no cyclical unemployment. All right. Criticisms of the unemployment rate. We talked about this, or what's called discouraged workers. Some people are no longer looking for a job because they've given up. They're still unemployed, but they don't count in our unemployment rate because discouraged workers, if you haven't looked once in the last 4 weeks, you're not part of the labor force. You're not part of employed workers. Part-time workers looking for more work, considered employed, but they're not getting the hours they want. And then race inequalities. But the two real big criticisms are 1 and 2. And some people are considered unemployed, but they're working for cash, and so it's not recorded. All right. Now, the last part is inflation. All right. Inflation is a rising general level of prices. For whatever reason, they like asking that. So that could be an easy question. Just know inflation is a rising. Okay. All right. And it reduces your purchase power, right? If something costs $1 today, I could get 10 of them. If they cost $2 next week, I only could buy 5. Now, all right. What I want you to hear is inflation is measured by the CPI index, which is a market basket of 300 commonly purchased goods. That's really what you need to know. The CPI index is a market basket of 300 commonly purchased goods. You see inflation rate, boom, year 2 minus year 1 over year 1 times 100. Okay, year 2 minus year 1 over year 1 times 100. All right, here is the consumer price index. It's the most commonly used. Why? Because it's measuring the 300 most common used. The other one that we've learned that measures inflation is the GDP deflator. Okay, both of them measure inflation. Consumer price index, because it's the 300 most commonly used. GDP deflator does not count foreign goods. Also counts tanks, airplanes, things consumers don't buy. All right. The base year is given at an index of 100 for both of them. So they could either say like 1982 is the base year and they could give it to you, or they could put 100 in a chart and you have to know it's the base year. All right. CPI index is price of the current basket over price of the market basket times 100. And usually do something like this. They'll give you 2 or 3 items, and like here, and they'll say, what is the, what is the CPI index? So the base year is 1997. So I'm going to take 25 over 20, right? And that's going to be, 125, right? When I multiply times 100. Now, how about if they said, what is the, how much did inflation go up compared to the base year? Well, I go year 2, 125, minus year 1, 100, because the base year is always 100, over 100, that would give me 25%. Okay. Is inflation good or bad? It hurts people who lend money because they're getting back dollars that don't buy as much. People with fixed incomes are hurt by inflation. Obviously, deflation, helps lenders and helps people with fixed and savers. Helped debtors because I'm paying back cheaper money, and businesses where the price of the product rises. Now, people that are not hurt or helped are people who have COLAs, cost of living adjustments, and that would be, like your salary goes up as much as your pension, check increases or decreases with the rate of inflation. Okay. I don't think you'll need to know these 3 causes. Just remember, for the money quantity, it's M times V equals P times Y. I don't think you won't need to know these. We'll do these next unit. You do need to know this. You need to know real interest rates is about purchasing power. Nominal interest rates is the money the bank gives you. So if I have $100 and they say 6%, and now I have 106, that's my nominal. The real is, will that 106 purchase more or less? Nominal equals real plus inflation. All right. Now, anytime real interest is positive or increases, it's good for the lender. Anytime it goes down or is negative, it's good for the borrower. All right. You could also use the same formula if, like, they give you something with wages. Like, I get a 10% raise. Inflation goes 20%. My real wages would be negative 10, meaning I have 10% less purchasing power than I did. Okay. That is all you need to know for both the FRQ and multiple choice. Does anyone have any questions? I will be doing a review in school during class time. So we'll review some multiple choice questions tomorrow, talk a little about what the FRQ could possibly be. But any questions on anything we went over tonight? No one? Okay. All right. Then I will see you guys when interest rate is negative. If real interest rate is negative, it helps the lender because that would mean you have high inflation. So say nominal is 6, inflation would be 7, real interest would be -1. That helps the lender. Okay. Was there another question in there? Okay. Okay. Any other questions anyone has?